In this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly how to hire commission-only remote sales reps to be placed inside your business and actually perform and hit KPIs. We're going to be breaking down exactly where to even find these sales reps, how to move them to interviews, how to do enough interviews to make sure you have the right rep, what to say in the interviews, all the way up to actually hiring them, what to put in their onboarding, and what to do when you do onboard them to make sure they actually perform and you create the environment necessary to have a high-performing sales team. Let's get into the video. I want to preface this by saying I've placed over 200 sales reps for companies as small as only doing about $1 million a year, all the way up to 9-figure companies that have high-performing sales teams with 40, 50 sales reps. I've really done it all, and I've learned a lot of this through tons of trials and tribulations. And it's ironic to me how business owners struggle in this recruiting process because it's literally identical to client acquisition. Like, if you understand client acquisition, you should be able to understand sales rep acquisition and recruiting. It's the same thing. You literally get a bunch of eyeballs to go to a landing page with a video and a form. You fill out that form, you get them on a call, and you close the deal, right? Like, that's what you do when you run ads. So it's the exact same thing when it comes to hiring. You get a bunch of interested applicants that you move to a video explaining the role. You have an application link, they fill that out. You reach out to the people who are qualified, that you move to a group interview, then you move them to a one-on-one interview, then you hire, and you quote unquote close the deal. So stay to the end of this video and I'll show you exactly how to get this done. I think what's most important before you do loads of work here is actually decipher if your business is ready for sales reps. A lot of businesses simply hire sales reps prematurely, or if they've not really done it themselves, they don't know how to actually manage the sales reps correctly. I'm a big believer in the fact that if you're not doing at least 60 grand a month, you should not hire a sales rep. You can hire an appointment setter when you're at like 30 grand a month, but ideally, if you're not there yet, you should just keep selling until you being on the call is absolutely the bottleneck, and you should try to dial everything else in the business, because actually being on the call and closing the deal is what actually drives revenue for the business. And if you have the wrong sales rep, or you manage the sales rep incorrectly, or you don't have the right marketing or fulfillment systems in place to actually make sure a rep can perform in your business, you could lose a shit ton of money. And it's so important to do this correctly. So do it as long as possible until you're cranking out 14-hour days. And literally the biggest bottleneck is that you just can't take more calls. Then you hire a sales rep. And if you're like, okay, well, I think I'm ready, but I'm not sure, like, what do I need to have? Ideally, you should have at least 3 calls on the calendar a day. With a pretty good show rate, like at least above a 50% show rate on calls. Like over half of the people are showing up on calls, and of which of those people they're actually qualified. And you're closing at least 20 to 25% of them. This is pretty basic stuff, but like, make sure you have a CRM. You're filling it out on a daily basis. You have like sales trackers in place. So you actually know your show rate, your offer rate, your close rate. You actually know what to tell them what to do because you've been doing it every single day and it's so repetitive, you can do it with your eyes closed. As long as you have your lead flow, at least 3 calls a day, decent show rate, and you can actually take on doubling your client load confidently because you have good fulfillment systems in place, then cool, hire a sales rep. Now that that's established, like step 1, like we want to hire a sales rep, we check every single box. What do we do? What's in your best interest is to make a hiring video. So make a video much like the one I'm making right now. We're gonna do about 3 things in this video. Number 1, you want to explain your company culture, right? You want to make sure they're actually a good culture fit. I promise you, there are so many people on this planet that can sell. Like, make sure they're actually a good culture fit for your team, especially if these are some of the first reps, or even if this is your 20th rep. It's really important that they are the right culture fit for your team because they could literally poison the rest of your team. If you're a work hard, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week type of company, let them know that, or else they're just gonna leave in 2 weeks anyway. If you're the opposite of that, cool. A workaholic is gonna get bored and leave. So explain your culture up front and just say what that is. Second thing being disqualified. You should have some prerequisites of what you're kind of looking for in a rep anyway. Like, they should probably know some stuff about your niche, or else it's gonna be very hard for them to close for. So say some things like, if you have no marketing experience, you don't know the intricacies of Facebook ads, or you've never seen the back of Ads Manager, this is not for you. Like, say these things to make these people leave that are not a good fit, so you're not going through loads of applications. And then also, the third thing is sell the freaking role. Like, you want A players who are watching the video, who are your dream salespeople, to see this and be like, I want to work for this guy. So you got to hype it up. You got to look like and actually have an amazing organization where they would truly want to work. You can do things like teach them stuff in their role, career advancement. Obviously, money is going to be one of the biggest drivers for salespeople. Make it sexy. slap a ribbon on top, like make it well known that you should want to sell for my company. We're providing a phenomenal product. We have great client results. You're going to make a lot of money. It's a cool culture and you're going to learn a ton from it. If you kind of show those 5 things, that's pretty much any sales rep's dream. So put that together in a video on a basic landing page. It doesn't have to be sexy or fancy in any way, shape, or form. Just a video explaining the role, and then below a little button that says apply if this is you. And what's a very good pro tip to put in your video is I always do this in all of my hiring videos. Put somewhere in the video towards the end, ideally, be like, by the way, if you actually stay to the end of this video, I want you to say purple golf ball somewhere in your application so I know you actually watch this and have good attention to detail. And then all the applications that don't say purple golf ball in them, I delete them. The type of sales rep you want probably is the type of sales rep who will actually watch the video in its entirety. So you can immediately disqualify the people that just don't follow basic directions. In your actual application, just a basic job form, what you really want to put in there is whatever you personally care about. But what I think is important is the obvious stuff: sales experience, what's their background like, how much money they want to make, what are they doing now, what have they done in the past, what do they want to work for your company in particular. And then a really big thing here is to put a loom video, because you want to see them talk if they're a sales rep. They're super intimidated, they're all shy, they've got their shoulders all rounded, like probably not gonna crush on the phones. You ideally want someone obviously a little bit in the middle, has some good charisma, has a good sense of humor. You could tell he could just talk and flow and he's comfortable speaking. That's probably your guy. So you can DQ a lot of people just by watching them actually speak and how they carry their body and all that jazz. And what I personally do, I make the loom video question optional. And then anyone who doesn't put the loom video, I delete all of their applications. All right, now step 3. We got our video, we got our form, we got our landing page. Let's drive traffic to this thing. We need as many sales reps seeing this as physically possible that are a good fit. A great place to go is hiresalesreps.io. This is personally my company. We place sales reps into online service-based businesses doing north of $1 million a year. The average business we place sales reps for is anywhere from about $3 to like $8 million a year. We've placed hundreds of sales reps into phenomenal 7, 8, and even 9-figure companies. I would personally recommend going there. Of course, I'm biased. You can hop on a call with my team, see if you'd be a good fit, and we'll get your rep placed ASAP. If you're looking to do this process on your own, that's more than fine. I personally recommend LinkedIn Sales Navigator. This is where I've done a lot of hiring and I've found some amazing talent. What you do if you go into LinkedIn Sales Navigator is like, let's say for example, you have an online fitness coaching business, right? Ideally, we would want sales reps who have sold online fitness coaching or something similar to that. Like that would be ideal. So we can go into LinkedIn Sales Navigator and you can go into all your competitors or all the big companies that are in your space. Like Kino Body, Gregor Gallagher comes to mind, like the King Keto guy, Brandon Carter comes to mind, Gym Launch with Alex Ramosi, any other big name fitness coaching guys. Type in all of their companies and you could put currently working at or previously worked at these companies and then put in their role being a sales representative, a closer, appointment setter, whatever. Put in all these forms. And then basically what it'll do is it'll put together a list of all these people who have experience in your niche who also have sales experience. And if you really want to make things extra, you could put that they have more than 2 years of sales experience. And then what you're going to do is you're going to get about a list of 400 or 500-ish people, roughly. Generally, the more broad and the less filters you put, the more reps you're going to get, the lower quality, the less targeted you're going to get. So play with it however you want. Ideally, you want a couple hundred applicants in here. And then what you're going to do is put in a LinkedIn DM automation tool, or you could have like a virtual assistant do it. Or if you want to put in some elbow grease, you can go send 500 messages, copy and paste yourself. And what you want to do here is basically just send them a message saying, hey, I saw you worked for X company. That's very similar to mine. We are currently hiring and I would love to bring you on the team. Check out this video explaining the role and see if you qualify. See you on an interview, something like that. It doesn't have to be that fancy. You just want to hype up your company, tell them it'd be a good role, tell them they're going to make a certain amount of money, they're going to learn a ton, anything that makes selling for your company sexy, and then send these DMs. Keep in mind with LinkedIn, there are limits on how many DMs you can send in a day. You don't want to get your LinkedIn banned, so send about 40, 50 or so a day. Do this for 10 days straight, you'll get your 500 applicants. This is what's going to be driving traffic to your hiring funnel. Another amazing place to go is your own customers or your own prospects, right? You could go into your email list or you can go into your social medias if you have any type of a following, and you could do the same thing. Hype up the role, explain what it'll look like, put the link in there, drive traffic to your funnel. If you want an absolute last resort, if you're still kind of struggling to get more applicants, you can go to Facebook groups. There's a ton of like high ticket closing, or again, if you're the fitness business, right? You could go into fitness groups. You could also promote the role there, but there's tons of high ticket closer, job board type Facebook groups. Ideally, if you hit a couple of these different traffic sources, you're going to get hundreds of applicants. The goal here is to get a lot of applicants, because just like anything else, the more you prospect, the higher quality talent pool and bigger talent pool that you're gonna have. It's gonna increase your likelihood of getting an A player. Now we got a fat stack of applications. Now it's time to look through them. Immediately, any misspellings, feel free to delete them. Any super short answers or anything left in blanks, no loom videos, if it doesn't say purple golf ball, delete all of them. What you really want to do is optimize for getting on as few interviews as possible, or just for the sake of time. You don't want to hop on 10 interviews a day for a month just to find this one salesperson. And then what you're going to do is email all of the people that you feel like are a good fit and tell them that they're invited to a group interview. Ideally, you don't want more than 10 people in a group interview. If you have more that are starred, probably do 2 group interviews back to back or on the same day. The goal here is to just speak to as many of them in the shortest time frame possible, so you can decrease the time frame of making this hiring decision, because we want to move fast. Like, success loves speed. Out of the 10, 20 people who moved to this group interview, you probably have a good feel for who would crush and who wouldn't. But you shouldn't hire someone without actually speaking to them one-on-one. What are we gonna ask them? That's obviously important. So here's a couple group interviews that have personally crushed. You give you really good insight on things. And like, just as a pro tip with group interviews, if you've never ran one of these before, more times than not, you ask one question and everyone kind of says generally the same shit, maybe a little bit of nuanced differences. So go for the starters of like, say your name, say who you are, your background a little bit, and where you're from. And you want to see like who jumps to go first, who's a little bit more timid, wants to lean back a little bit, who's kind of awkward when they talk first, or like trying to read the room, like, because you can kind of see like who's a leader, who's not, who's super aggressive, who's super laid back. You can kind of get a read on personality types big time here. The biggest thing about this interview is more so just like culture and like personality. For the one-on-ones, you can get a little bit more into the nitty gritty. But a great thing that I like to ask prospects is to get a feel on like their ethical and like moral compass. It's very important in salespeople. So I'll give them a situational question. I give them about 2 or 3 situational questions. So I'll say, okay, Garrett, it's the end of the month. We've had a goal of cracking $500,000 a month cash collected for like 6 months now. We're at the end of the month. We're at our very last call, and this call will kind of make or break if we're gonna break past our goal or not break past our goal. You're on a call with this prospect. You kind of feel like they're unqualified, but you know that if you close this deal, we will hit our goal. What do you do in this scenario? And then you kind of figure out like, do they go for the money grab, or do they care more about the name of the business and the reputation of the business, to where we're not closing people we probably shouldn't be closing, to where we're gonna make our fulfillment team have a freaking headache. Depending on who you are as a person, it might not necessarily be right or wrong. It depends what you look for in a sales rep. So you can kind of get a read on this personality, these like hard moments where they have to make a decision. Another good just situational kind of type question is really just to describe a scenario in life where they had a big hardship and like what they dealt with. I think more times than not, you can kind of get a read for people on like their big rock bottom moments. So getting them to uncover that in front of a group of people usually will show you how vulnerable, how honest they're willing to be with you. And then another good question to ask is like, did they actually do research on your company, or are you just another company they might hop on an interview with? So if they show up to the call with you about being hired for you and they kind of don't know anything about your company, they didn't really do any research, they showed up 2 minutes late, probably not the type of rep I want anyway, because they're probably gonna mistreat my leads and burn my cash. So you could ask questions like, based on your research on my company, what do you think disqualifies a potential client for coming on board here? Which is a simple question of what made you want to work for my company. 2 more big questions to ask here. I just say, describe your sales philosophy, and I kind of get a read on like how they view sales and how they are as a salesperson. Everyone's a little bit different. And then last thing is like, where do you see yourself in 1 year? It's just enough times where it's like, do you see yourself being here for longer than a year? Do you want to like run your own business in a year? Like, where are you kind of at in your phase of life, and like how long-term of a thinker are you? Because if you're going to churn in 3 months, and like, I don't want to hire you anyway. So these are all huge group interview questions. Now let's break down what to do in the actual one-on-one interview and how we decide who goes to the one-on-one interview. So from here, what I personally do is a personality test. There's plenty of personality test websites where you can kind of get a read for like who they are deeply as a person, what triggers them, what they like, what they don't like. So make them all do a personality test and make sure they submit that by the end of the day that you actually accept them. And then give them at least a 24-hour break before they have their one-on-one interview. Take all these one-on-one interviews and then try to make a hiring decision by the end of the day of doing all the one-on-one interviews. On the one-on-one interviews, you can lay down in a lot more detail how much they're actually going to be making, more detail about the company, more detail on their sales philosophy, like who they are as a person. Ideally, as the CEO or the sales manager should be taking this interview, because the person you pick will really dictate how much revenue this salesperson drives. Less about the environment and other things like that, more about the actual character and the actual person you're picking. Okay, so now we've literally gone through building our hiring funnel, drove traffic to that funnel, got qualified applicants in the funnel, moved the applicants to a group interview, moved the good group interview applicants to the one-on-one interviews. We've made our hiring decision. We now have a sales rep. What's next is, what are we going to give them? They're confused. They need to know what they're going to be doing next. So here are the onboarding necessities that you actually need so they're well prepared to get on calls, crush it, and close some deals. The obvious one here would be a sales script. It's good to lay out how your call actually goes. Ideally, you have about 10 hours of sales call recordings. Don't just do this to pad your ego. Put in deals that closed and deals that didn't close. And what's even better is to get the actual call recording separate and then get a separate video of you recording yourselves, watching that recording and going play by play, step by step, explaining what's going through your head with the script alongside it and kind of saying what you're doing, why you're doing it, what you view as a red flag, what you view as good. Just kind of just thinking out loud, saying what was going through your head as you're going throughout the call and different nuances you picked up, why you said certain things throughout the call. It will help them so much understand what's going on these calls. And as your sales team grows, you're going to be hiring more people. So make this good one time so you don't have to remake it and adjust it every freaking time you hire a sales rep. Another very important thing to have is an avatar sheet. So put who you do work with, the qualities they have, the characteristics, their revenue levels, how much money they have, their locations, anything like this, and then put who you do not work with, whether it's just simply the fact that they're an asshole. Or if you want to make this really, really good, I would put your sub avatars below. Like for the businesses that we play sales reps for, this could be marketing agencies, this could be coaching programs, this could be B2B consulting businesses, this could be masterminds. And then for each sub avatar, I'll kind of break down the pain points, what's important to them, what they really want out of the service, how the calls are a little bit different, and testimonials for people in each sub avatar category. It really helps equip them for these calls. If they have a call with a marketing agency, they're like, oh, okay, let me go and check out these testimonials. I can kind of mention some results that we've got from previous clients. Little things like that can help a ton. A basic offer explanation sheet is saying what you actually offer, how much it is, the payment plan options you have available, and exactly what deliverables are in that service. Who you offer this service to, who you don't offer this service to, different services you have, different price points. And then next, just like your basic SOPs, like how do I get a client to give us money? Like how do I send an invoice and contract, right? How do I onboard a client once they're paid? How do I do end of day reporting? How do I fill out the CRM? And then lastly, give them access to all these things. So they need to be able to communicate with you. So like if you use Slack or whatever you use to communicate, Slack, you need access to the CRM, you need access to all the tracking materials. They probably need access to like a Zoom account if you guys do calls on Zoom. They probably need their own phone number. And the last thing here, as far as like meeting cadence goes, I would have a sales team meeting Monday through Friday for like an hour. And then I would probably do at least 3 one-on-ones with them until they start hitting their KPIs. On these one-on-ones, you just want to be drilling call reviews and mock calls like crazy. And the very last thing of this video is expectation setting. This is huge. This is a big reason why salespeople leave. You either overpromise them and say, oh my God, you're gonna make $1 million, and it's just not fucking true. Or you get upset with them because you think they're underperforming, but you didn't lay out what performing actually looks like. So you fire them because they're underperforming, but they don't know what good or bad is because you didn't tell them what good or bad is. Granted, the right sales rep should know, but you need to assume when you make onboarding and training materials, it is meant to be for a second grader. I promise it will just serve you in the end. So here's personally what I lay out. I have a 3-month trial period that I lay out for reps. Month 1, I expect them to hit about 50% of their KPIs. Month 2, I expect them to hit 75% of their KPIs. And then month 3, I expect them to hit 100% of their KPIs. So what this will look like, and I actually have mine out here, is my total KPI is 100 calls, 70 of them show up, so a 70% show rate with a 30% close rate, 21 closed deals per month. So month 1, we give them 50 calls where 35 show up, 20% of them close, which is 7 closed deals. And then I lay out, you'll make $5,200. Month 2, you get 75 calls, 53 show up, close 25% of them. So the close rate goes from 20% to 25% month 2. You get 13 closes. You make about 10 grand that month. Month 3, you actually get 100 calls, 70 show up, 30% close rate, 21 closed deals, you make about 16 grand. And then if any of those months, they have below a 15% close rate, they're immediately cut off the team. Or if by the end of those 3 months, they've missed every single month just by a smidge, they're immediately off that team. And on your onboarding call, you actually lay this out for these reps so that they know if it's towards the end of the month and they're a little bit below their numbers, they're gonna go hard. They're gonna dial everyone in the CRM because they don't want fired. And then when it comes time to actually fire them, if it comes to that, you're not the asshole because you laid out what makes them get fired or what makes them stay on the team. It's a nice probation period that makes them go really hard and make you a bunch of money. And also helps you from not firing fast enough and keeping underperformers on your team that are potentially burning cash on your marketing dollars or just burning opportunity costs for deals that otherwise could have been closed with the right rep. So that's it for this video. I know it was super thorough and a lot to take in. So go ahead and subscribe for more videos just like this. And as mentioned before, if you want commission-only remote sales reps and you don't want to deal with all of this process, we will do it for you at hiresalesreps.io, where you can hire commission-only remote talent.